trouble losing weight, need more energy, want to improve your health? You got a fitness or nutrition question? I probably have an answer for you. How can you build a stronger core without going to the gym? Well, that's what I'm going to answer for you today in this episode of Ask Yuri. Welcome, I'm Yuri Elkaim, and I recently got a question from one of our YouTube followers that was asking me about telling me about the fact that he's a cyclist and he really enjoys cycling, but his chiropractor said, listen, you've got some issues because you've got a weak core. You enjoy cycling, but your core is weak. That's going to run into some issues in terms of your back and hip flexors and so forth. But this individual doesn't like going to the gym to work out. So what can he do? Well, that's a great question. I'm really excited to share my insights with you on this because I think it's really, really important. He also mentioned talking about getting into some kettlebell training and seeing if that's a good way to get his core strong. So let me get to this right now, okay? So kettlebells are amazing. I have 2 of them in my backyard. That's pretty much what I do for most of my workouts when I'm at home. I love them. However, you need to have a strong foundation for anything. Any type of exercise needs to start with the foundation, this pillar of strength around your spine. Because here's the thing, when you are moving, okay, whether it's walking or throwing, serving, swinging a kettlebell, every single movement you do, if you were to plug yourself up to one of those electrode machines that looks at kind of activation patterns throughout all your muscles, what you will find is that your core should normally fire first. Right? So all movement initiates from the core. But the problem though is that your spine needs to be supported because your spine is generally a little bit it's not so much of a stable series of joints. So you need to stabilize those joints, and the only way to do that is by training through what I call foundational fixture exercises, which really get to the deep core muscles, like your transverse abdominis, like your multifidus, like your quadratus lumborum. And you're like, if you're thinking like, what the hell are you talking about? I've never heard of these. Well, that's the reality, is that most people just think about doing sit-ups, right? I'm gonna get strong abs, my core is strong. No, it's not. Those 6-pack muscles, they're actually an 8-pack. That's an 8-pack muscle. It's called the rectus abdominis. That's the only muscle group you are working when you're doing sit-ups. And if you're doing, okay, look, I'm doing this movement, right? Sit-up, I'm doing a sit-up, a micro sit-up. If I were to do this over and over and over again, which I did when I was young, I used to do probably millions of sit-ups without any kind of results. But what ends up happening is if you do these exercises like sit-ups, this forward flexion, those muscles develop more tonicity. So they actually they're more toned, right? So they're tighter. There's more pull on their insertion points. So what do you think your posture would look like if you continued to do this type of movement all the time? Do you think maybe you might end up with this type of posture? Maybe. And if you are a cyclist, do you think that this is probably a pretty consistent posture to be in as well, right? So from a postural perspective, it's just not a good idea. So what you want to be doing are things like bird dogs or planks or side planks, or stationary movements, or actually they're not even movements, stationary exercises. They're static exercises that don't have any movement, but that focus on proper muscle activation. Okay, so I've done a video about this before, and you can look on my YouTube channel for all sorts of different exercises that I've created, but there's really an endless amount, and I'll try to create even more to really kind of build up that library of exercises. Because let me give you an example, okay? I'm gonna do elbow flexion, okay? So this is known as elbow flexion, right? This would be like doing a plank. If you're holding a plank, in your forearms and toes, straight line, most people do a plank like this. But what I'm encouraging you to do is learn how to activate your muscles properly so that in the same position, your muscles are activated, okay? And what does this do? Well, do you think it's gonna stabilize my joints a little bit more, right? My elbow is a little bit more, stabilized than if it was in kind of this wonky position. And it's the same thing with core training, is that if you don't activate your muscles properly, then you're simply holding a position with no focus. And that's why you could have 2 people side by side doing a plank. One might be doing it amazingly differently than the other person, and you wouldn't even know by looking at it. And that's where it really pays to have a coach or an expert like myself to actually be there with you to show you and can give you these cues about how to activate your muscles. If you do a plank, you should not be able to hold it for 2 or 3 minutes. Because if you do, you're probably not getting the level of engagement and activation in your muscles, not just your core, but all of your muscles. that will make your body tremble. And if you can hold it for more than 30 seconds, I applaud you. So that's the difference. So if you want to really get the most out of your core training, I would strongly suggest that you follow my amazing Absolution program. It's the best workout program I've ever developed. It's probably the best abdominal core training program I've ever seen, at least online, that I've ever come across, and that's the reason I developed it. It's a no sit-up solution to getting a strong core. So if you want to learn more about it, you can click on the link below this video or somewhere on the video, and you can learn more about it there. But before you start swinging kettlebells or doing other crazy exercises, it has to start with these foundation exercises. And it all starts, within those is how to activate your little small muscles or even the bigger ones that are so often neglected. And that's what I help you do. So for the individual asking that question, I hope that helps. And once you've developed that foundation, then you can start throwing kettlebells around, doing kettlebell swings and different things. But it all starts with having that kind of strong foundation. And just as a parting note, here's a simple thing you want to focus on a day-to-day basis, just to really kind of think about this and kind of do it, is when you are standing or sitting, brace your core, brace your abdominals to about 20-25% activation. And what that means is, imagine I was about to punch you in the stomach. How would you naturally just react, right? Just think about that. You would naturally kind of suck in and tighten up your abs. Hold that contraction, but not on a full-on state, maybe just a 20% activation, and hold that as often as you can throughout the day. That's going to improve your posture, that's going to kind of shrink your waistline a little bit, and it's going to start developing a natural kind of muscle memory for a lot of those muscles that are so important to stabilize your spine and your core. So give that a shot. Thanks for the question. If you have a question you want answered, let me know. Use the hashtag AskYuri on Instagram or Facebook. And I would strongly recommend that you join me on Periscope, because I'm on there every single day answering your questions, showing you some of my workouts, doing some crazy stuff, and it's a lot of fun. I love connecting with all of our audience in person, so I'd love to connect with you as well. You can find me at Elkaim on Periscope. So that's YELKAIM. And I look forward to seeing you there. Until then, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.